Never give up your dreams. Even if you don't make a commercial living from the dreams of being an artist, you're still an artist. It doesn't matter what. If you're making marks, you're an artist, and that in itself is fulfillment. We're doing this for us. We're doing it for ourselves. We're doing it to feed ourselves this wonderful gift that we have of being artists back to ourselves. And we can have a career that's very exciting in the arts and being paid for that. But at the end of the day, every artist all want to just paint for themselves. That's the goal. The goal is where you are right now. And then just live that dream all the way through, whatever it takes you. Hi, I'm Patrick J. Jones. I'm an instructor at New Masters Academy. This course is all about creating fantasy art. And in this course, you'll see me direct models. You'll see me draw structural and gestural forms. And you'll see me finish those drawings with some render, and you will learn lots and lots about how to be a fantasy artist. Now, I started my artistic journey as a young kid, and my father would wallpaper rooms, and I would take up the scraps of wallpaper and draw in the back of them. And he saw me do that. And he says, here's some more, because it was better than putting it in the dumpster, or even better, having to buy me drawing materials. So I was always drawing, and my uncles would come in and they would go, you got to get that kid into art school. Unfortunately, that never happened, but it didn't stop me. And I went to London, and I roughed it out a little bit, met people of my ilk, and we banded together, and we became a group of artists that went on to be quite famous in our fields. And on that journey, I met many wonderful people, and also the heroes that got me interested in art at the beginning, like Boris Vallejo. I would have loved to have met Frank Frazetta. It was almost to be, and unfortunately he died as we were about to meet each other. And so it's been a great journey with lots of thrills, and it has led me here to the New Masters Academy, and I want to return some of that great stuff that I learned along the way and help you along your way to begin your art journey too. Now, it's probably obvious from my art that I've been influenced by Frank Frazetta and Boris Vallejo. There have been many, many more. There have been English artists, for instance, Jim Burns and the likes of Fred Cambino and stuff. Artists that really aren't that well known, but worth sorting out and looking for. And I got an agent in London, and she only dealt with fantasy artists. Now you might say, Patrick, how the hell did you get an agent that only dealt with fantasy artists? Well, I looked for an agent that only dealt with fantasy artists. And the world can be that simple if you bend it to your will. And there was one, lo and behold, and I contacted her, and she said no. And I said, well, I'm going to have to work something better out than that. And so I got directly in touch with the publishers. And on the way past her agency one day, I had a commission in my hands, and I thought quite wily to ring her beforehand and tell her I was going to drop this commission off to the publisher. And she asked what publisher was it, and I told her Orbit Books. And there was a pause, and she obviously thought, there goes 30% walking past my door. And she said, come on in. And I came in, and she took me on because I had established myself already. And so where there's a will, there's a way. Now, my first big break into fantasy art came from my due diligence, which was to put out some promotional material, and I sent it cold out to art directors. And I sent it to about 20, I think, and just wrote very plainly on the package to the art director of Orbit Books and Pan Books and Penguin Books, and they got back. And the first one to get back to me was Jeanette Diamond at Orbit, and I couldn't believe it. And she said to me, and changed my life overnight, we'd love you to come in and do 3 books for us. And I went, 3, wow. And she said to me, are you available anytime this week? Well, I was available right there and then, but I didn't want to seem desperate. And so I said, let me just check my diary. And I flicked through the yellow pages, which was a phone book where I got her address and phone number from. And I says, oh, I can make it tomorrow. And in I walked with my little denim clothes on from Belfast because I hadn't got a clue about style or manners or anything. But she was so wonderful. She was so posh, and she was so nice. And she said, as I was leaving, "Patrick, don't you want paid?" And I said, "I get paid?" That's how much I wanted to work. I hadn't even signed the contract. And that contract led me to further artworks that were just one after the other. As each book jacket was finished, another one landed on the desk. I'd had that agent by that point, and I had multiple companies calling me up to work, and it just was endless, and it was wonderful. All right, what have I gained from following this creative path? So many things. The main thing, of course, is I get to create every day. That's amazing. I just love that. And if that's all there was, I'd be happy. I could live in a cave and draw and paint and be happy. But it's taken me further than that. It's taken me to the corners of the earth. It's taken me to gala events. I've been guest of honor at Dragon Con and treated like a prince. All these things totally unattainable, and yet now they're there. And they're there simply because I can make marks on a page. But not just marks that I love and other people love too. And by following my path, other people have come along for that ride as well. And they appreciate it. And that was a thrill too, to find out that what I do for love is appreciated and is loved back. So for me, what I've gained from art is the love of art coming back to me in all these forms. The forms of people that I didn't know were friends or even on the verge of being friends are now lifelong friends. So I don't just have the friends I grew up with, 4 kids in a street. I have a world of friends that I can meet up with in California, in France, in the Netherlands, in the far-flung corners of Australia. It's an amazing world to be in, the world of art. It'll take you very far. Now, when it comes to anxiety, I have a strange anxiety, and it's not the anxiety that I can't draw or I won't draw well. I know that'll come because the mileage is there. And even if I do a bad drawing, I'll do a good drawing after that, and I know that will happen. My anxiety entering the world of art was leaving my friends behind, and I think that's a very common anxiety. But it's fine, and if you feel that anxiety, don't worry about it, because the friends you made at the beginning are the friends you'll have for life anyway. I hadn't seen my friends for 16 years last year. I went back home, and they were there waiting for me, still the best of friends, as if I'd never gone away. So that was my anxiety, was that I was leaving something, that art was going to take something from me, that I had to sacrifice something to be an artist. And in the beginning, I did sacrifice. I did leave home. I was alone. But lo and behold, there's friends everywhere in art. So when I got to London, I find artists there that are just like me, that have left their homes, and they think they're friendless, and now we're friends. And we grew together as artists. And I realize now that if you're an artist, you've got friends everywhere in the world. You just got to go plant yourself there and they'll find you. Take a sketch pad down to any beach and start drawing, and you'll have people look over your shoulder. Any cafe, anywhere in the world that you feel lonely, just get your sketch pad out, and it won't be long before an artist finds you, or just an art lover, and you'll find friends through art. All right, now how did I get into teaching? That was the flotsam and jetsam thing I've talked about before, where you have a plan and then something else happens and it changes the plan. And you can either ignore what happens, or you can grab a hold of that and say, this is interesting, I'll flow with that, and I'll incorporate it into the plan. So that was a flotsam and jetsam moment. And I had gone to Australia with traditional skills and no digital skills at all. And I was shocked to find that I was once again a fish out of water. And I had gone for a job straight out of the bag. I decided to bend the world again and say, I'm not going to start at the bottom because I'm in a new country. I'm going to go for this position of art director that was advertised in the newspaper, of all things. So I answered this ad for art director, and I went in there, and the guy was very impressed. He was very impressed with my credentials, especially impressed that I'd worked for Saatchi & Saatchi in every company you could mention I've worked for, because I'd worked in advertising in London. So I had just come from London after 15 years, not 15 yet, 10 years of working in advertising. 5 of that would be in Australia. And he was amazed, and he says, well, I'd love you to start as soon as possible. So the CEO, he took me into the back room where all the minions were, and he said, here will be your team, and here are the computers, the Apple computers. And my eyes glazed over because I had never seen a computer before. And he said, you'll be responsible for the data, storage, a lot of stuff that I have no idea what he was talking about. It was just wind. He was talking about the computers. And I just knew nothing. I knew that the world had changed and I was really in trouble here. And I had to say to him, look, I can't do this job. I don't know anything about computers. And he was shocked. And so off to school I went. I went to what's in America is known as community college. In Australia it's called TAFE. And I went there and learned how to become a digital artist. And not so much the artist part, it was just how to learn how to draw on a tablet. And I remember the first day very clearly. I went in there and I couldn't turn the computer on. And I was just crestfallen. And that everyone else was clicking away there. All the kids were clicking away like crickets. And the teacher says, are you okay? And I says, I don't know how to turn the blasted thing on. And he says, oh, it's a hidden button around the back. And I went, a hidden button? What kind of world are we in? They're hiding buttons from us. I want to click it on like they went to space and just pull a button down. So that was my introduction to Mac computers. But when it came on, boom, I knew that this was something special. But it only took, I think, possibly a week or so before I realized that it was nothing to do with computers, what I needed to know. I already knew what was necessary. And the teacher knew that too. And he threw out the curriculum and he says to me, curriculum, I couldn't even say the word, curriculum. He threw it out and he says to me, Patrick, do whatever you want, you know. You don't need this stuff, which was, you know, how to do an artwork, how to make it grade 8 and all that business. He says, Patrick, you just do your own thing and I'll grade you at the end. It's as simple as that, you know. And so he watched me and I brought things in. I brought a book jacket commission in from New York and he went wild for it. And so now he's all excited about the class. Has become a new thing. It's become this thing where there's a professional illustrator in the class and now the students are getting involved. And now it's all about me. And what an amazing turnaround was that, after me not able to turn the computer on. So he was loving the experience, because I think he'd got a bit jaded. He'd become a teacher, and the world was just this dry thing that just happened every semester. The new batch of students come in. Now there was this wonderland, and everyone got involved. And by the end of it, I had left the college and got a call from the teacher, Peter Kewen. And he says to me, Patrick, would you like to teach? And I said, I certainly don't want to do that. Because I remembered teaching when I was a kid was the teachers getting beaten up and the school being on fire. It was just a terrible experience, school time for me. I just thought it was a place where teachers were in danger. And he said, it's all fashion students. And I said, okay, well, they don't sound too dangerous. So I went up to this place in Noosa in Australia, and it was the most beautiful thing. It was set among the forests and the lakes, and it was just astonishing. It was picturesque to the point where it should be on a travel brochure. And there it was set there, this wooden, beautiful, modern campus where people were strolling around like it was Logan's Run, something in the future where everything's pristine. And there were the students waiting for all this knowledge. And I stood in front of them, and they were all gorgeous. Of course, they're fashion students. And the teacher that led me in, she's a fashion, retiree, and she's gorgeous, and everybody's gorgeous. And I just felt like this gimp, and I didn't know how to teach, and I froze. I couldn't say a word. And I just stood there, and they were so nice. They just waited for the wisdom. Finally spoke a few words. But once I started drawing, the whole world changed again. And it's one of those moments where does art take you? Well, it takes you to this, where 1 minute you look like you're a numbskull, and the next minute you're making marks, and people think you're a genius. And so it grew from that. And by the end of that semester, it was a huge triumph, and they threw a party, and I left thinking like I was the best teacher in the world. And I thought, I can do this. I'll do that again. And of course, the calls just kept coming in. And I ended up in university, in the most prestigious university in Brisbane, QUT, and I just loved it. I couldn't believe I got that call. So where can art take you there? And I eventually went through there for years, and eventually got the Vice Chancellor's call to be nominated for the Vice Chancellor's Award for Teaching. And they asked all these honorees, these Bachelor of Art people, curing cancer and blindness. You know, this is a campus that's cutting edge. They're actually doing as they say. It's the university for the real world is how it's built, because they actually do real research there. And they asked these people to stand up. They says, can we have the honorees stand up, please? And there was probably 500 people there, and 6 people stood up, and I was one of them. And it was amazing. We had all teary. I'm welling up thinking about it. So there's where art can take you. It can take you to places you just couldn't imagine, places you can imagine and places you can't. All right, now, an important takeaway from this course, if I was a student and I had done this course and I look back on it, I'm sure it would be this, and it would be that I can draw. I can draw now. That's my guarantee. You're going to be able to draw. The rest is up to you. At the end of this course, you're definitely going to be a better artist than when you started. It's up to you then with the mileage, how far you can take it. And I know that I will meet many of you in the future and you will have fabulous careers. That I can say as a fact. So the takeaway from this course is you don't give up on art. You make sure that you continue this no matter what the knocks are. You've come in here, you've already proven that you're determined to do something with this talent that you've got. You have this talent or you wouldn't be here. So take away that promise that if you make art a lifestyle, you will always be happy, you will always create beautiful things, you'll always be appreciated. And that in itself is enough. If you want to take it further and go into commercial art, it'll take you far. Fine art, anything you like. Art in your soul will comfort you. Art in your hand and in your mind will take you into concept art, the movie world, into publishing. There's so many avenues for art that I will guarantee you'll find something that'll fit you. And if at the end of the day it's teaching, that's so fulfilling, probably the most important part of what you will do. And most great artists do end up teaching to pass on that knowledge rather than leave it adrift. And how great it would have been to have Frank Frazetta teach, for instance. So for me, coming in here was partly that. I don't want to be selfish with this and leave it alone and leave it behind and no one else benefits from it. But I want you to take it and run with it and grow with it, and you will find great satisfaction in it, and that's a guarantee too. Now, what's the value of art? If we look at all the cities in the world, how are they valued? It's not by the gold and the bullion that they have. We don't go to Fort Knox and look at that for hours and hours and say, what a wonderful block of gold that is. No, we go to museums. We go to the Met. We go to the Louvre. We go to the ruins of Greece and we see those statues. Even if they're half demolished, we still admire them for what they were. It's the artists' whispers from the past still talking to us. We go to the Tate Gallery and we see these wonderful pieces of art. And the artist in some way is still alive. And we have the gift they left us. And it's invaluable. And when you look even now as art is being created, that's invaluable too. If people are sad, they'll read a novel, it'll lift them. If you're in the poorest place on earth, you can still draw with a pencil and paper and it'll lift your heart up. So art is incredibly valuable. It's incredibly valued as well. It's valued by the throngs that go through the Met. If you've ever been to the Met, just watch how many people, artists and non-artists, that walk through those doors and come out, and you can see it in their faces, how valuable that was for them to do that. So if we work all day, we get gratification from the work we've done. We come home and we watch television or we watch movies or we read books. That's all art. All of that is what we take as comfort and as a reward for our day's work. So for me, apart from medicine and science, art is the most valuable thing there possibly is. And it's the last thing we see as a remnant of past cultures. And so there were doctors and there were great scholars. What is left is the art. It's always the art. We see it in the ruins of Greece. and it is excavated and it is repaired because of its value. Now, what's the benefit of online learning? There's so much benefit compared to, let's take the example of the pandemic that came along. Now, we had that wonderful world of walking onto a campus and strolling around, and that's such a great thing. A lot of what happens on the campus in the classroom is quickly forgotten the minute the doors close. It's a wonderful experience, and it is invaluable in different ways. It doesn't have what the online classes have, which is the ability to go back in time, to be a time traveler, and look back over that footage again of your teacher being at their best. And also, that teacher has had a chance to be their best and cut stuff out that wasn't so good. So I can go into a classroom one day and be on fire, and people will say, wow, wouldn't it have been great if that was recorded? And some day as a teacher, I'm not going to say I go in, some days a teacher might go in and be dreadful. And we all go, what a horrible day that was. And you might tell your friends, you're lucky you missed that day. Well, that's not going to get recorded. So online classes are terrific because you have that chance to rewind, watch again. If there's goof-ups in there, I like the goof-ups, to be honest. I think you learn a lot from them. So I've left some in my course. I think that's a danger to leave those out. But if it's just goof up after goof up and a teacher's not on their game, you can have a whole semester of bad teaching. But with the quality of education that we know is in the New Masters Academy, and I'm not saying that as hyperbole, I'm a life member and was one before I came in here. I value this place so highly, and I think it's the best in the world, and I think New Masters Academy is rightly named. We often think, wouldn't it be great if Michelangelo was here to show us how to sculpt, or that we are at a loss to how Leonardo da Vinci really did all the minutiae that he did. We have to fill those gaps in. Well, we've got Steve Houston and Glenn Villepeu with all their knowledge on display. It's all right there. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to go, I wish Steve Houston was around, or Glenn Villepeu, or Carl Gannas, or Danny Galliotti. They're all there right now, and they'll be there forever. And that's the value of an online course. It's there forever, and it's there to rewind and see and mine from. And I would say, always watch a course more than once. Watch it at least 6, 7 times, because all that small stuff that gets lost when maybe you flag a little bit yourself in your drawing, there's gold in there, and you have it there forever. And that's the value of an online course. Now, if you're wondering, you want to be a fantasy artist yourself, this is the future you see for yourself, and what would be the value of taking my course? Well, I would love to have had my course, and I have built my course around that fact, that if I was a young me, and I often think this, if I could go back to 22-year-old me and tell me what was valuable, that's what I put in this course. So if you're asking yourself that, how can I be that fantasy artist in the future? Well, that's what I have built this course around, that very idea. How could I treat myself to the wonders of all that stuff I learned over those 30, 40 years, and go back in that machine and say, Patrick, it's all going to be all right, because look where you went. And look, here it also is all the answers that you need to know. Skip ahead those 20 years or so that were jumbled up with you wondering how things get done and working it out and burning the midnight oil, at the end going, Eureka, I've discovered something new. Well, I've put it all in there, so you don't have to do that. But I want you to learn also how to learn. So I want you to take what I teach here and grow out of it, grow new ideas. When I give you a mnemonic, I want you to take that mnemonic and say, well, I could create a mnemonic too, like Patrick has. I want you to do that. And that is the extra little bit of sauce that I'm imparting right now. So go back into the course and then remember this, and you will be an amazing artist. An artist so beyond the scope of where you would have been if you didn't have this course, because I, once again, know this to be true, because I have struggled so far and so long to get this knowledge out. So it's there for you to use, and use it well. Now, my parting words to you guys as aspiring fantasy artists is this, is never give up your dreams. Even if you don't make a commercial living from the dreams of being an artist, you're still an artist. It doesn't matter what. If you're making marks, you're an artist. And that in itself is fulfillment. And proof of that would be the likes of Jeff Jones, who became a commercial artist and thought that's all he wanted to be, and abandoned it because he realized that all he wanted to do was paint and be an artist, not to be paid for it. And so he discovered late in life that the truth of it is that we're doing this for us. We're doing it for our souls. We're doing it to feed ourselves this wonderful gift that we have of being artists back to ourselves. And we can have a career that's very exciting in the arts and being paid for that. But at the end of the day, every artist, and I know them all want to just paint for themselves. That's the goal. The goal is where you are right now, which is to paint for yourself or draw for yourself. And then just live that dream all the way through, whatever it takes you. Be a bit of flotsam and jetsam. Be a commercial artist, be a concept artist, be a comic book artist. And all that time you know that when you retire, you don't retire. You actually are back where you are now, which is this wonderful world of being an artist. And it'll make you the happiest person in the world, and you'll never be alone.